So welcome everyone, January 1st, 2022, and the excuses have already started. Leading up to the end of every year, I begin getting inundated with emails and texts and people posting all over the membership site with all of their success from the previous year, and everyone's celebrating the effects, which is wonderful and it's great and it's gratifying and it's fun and it's exciting and all that good stuff. But you know, the effect that we're all going to be celebrating 12 months from now on January 1st, 2023 is caused by the actions we take every single day of the year. I was joking with one of our members. And we were talking about the following should be on the epitaph of every successful entrepreneur. I had a great life, but I know it could have been better. I know I accepted someone's lame excuses along the way. And, every year we get people who've broke the 7-figure barrier for the first time in their business. They've broken the $2 million barrier, the $5 million barrier, the $10 million barrier, even the $500,000 barrier. Whatever that financial set point is, we've got people breaking it every year. And it's never like they break it by a lot. They always break it by relatively little. And, not that money is the only thing that we measure, certainly not even the most important thing that we measure, but it certainly does tend to impact all the things that we claim are really more important and most important in our lives. And so we do measure it. Whenever people break the 7-figure barrier for the first time, it's almost always by a relatively small amount, which such amount they would have ignored or taken for granted back in January if someone asked them to let them slide. They've got a client who they really could have had a more honest, authentic, generous, caring, considerate, thoughtful, real, truthful conversation. Because sales, remember, is something we do for people, not to people. But instead, they want to be polite, they want to be nice, they want to get along, they don't want to have tension, they want the prospective client to like them, and so they don't go there. They don't have the conversation that they need to have to help the client make a rational, better decision for the rest of the client's life. And consequently, the client's life doesn't get better. And then we get to the end of the year and they're upset because they missed their financial goal by just $5,000. My firm, my business, we grossed $995,000. And if I had just had a real conversation with that client back in January, I'd be celebrating instead of complaining that I missed it by such a small amount. They've got an employee who doesn't do the job that the employee needs to do the way the employee needs to do the job, which ultimately is bad for the employee and of course bad for the business and bad for the clients and bad for the owners of the business too. But instead of telling the employee the truth about their performance and giving the employee direct feedback so the employee can improve their performance and be successful, they don't want to be uncomfortable, they don't want to be an asshole, they don't want to have any tension. They make an impractical decision which ultimately ends up being unprofitable too, not only for the business but for themselves and for the customers and for the employee also, who, absent proper feedback from their employer or the owner of the company, their performance never improves and they can never grow. So the name of this program is the Practical Profitable Mindset Program. And this is January 1st. This is really the introduction. The real substance of the program begins on Monday, January 3rd. January 1st falls on a Saturday, and I didn't want you to waste a single day of this year. And so we're going to do an introduction today, but the real exercises start on Monday. We're not going to get into what those are right now. We're going to talk about the introduction. And I want you to be thinking very intentionally and very deliberately and very ruthlessly about why you are doing this. Why are you here? Why have you committed? Some of you committed $24,000. Some of you hesitated and delayed and procrastinated and made excuses, and now the investment is $30,000. Why did you commit $24,000 or $30,000 and a year of your life? So we're clear, this is not a $2,000 or $2,500 a month program. You have signed a legally binding contract which you can bet I'm going to enforce for your benefit for $24,000 or $30,000. We're simply giving you the option to make payments every month. So why are you doing this? Why did you make this commitment? Number two, what has to be true at the end of this year in order for you to be celebrating what a great experience this was, celebrating what a terrific return on investment you've achieved, and really feeling good about yourself and really feeling a sense of pride that you made an investment for yourself and you played all in for a whole year? What has to be true in order for you to be celebrating at the end of this year? Number three, how will you know the truth about this experience? Number three, how will you know the truth about this experience? All right, so let's get clear about what the Practical Profitable Mindset Program is not, and then we'll circle back to these three questions in a little while. This year-long program is not a substitute for therapy. If you are traumatized, emotionally unstable, or having difficulty functioning effectively, this program is not the answer for you. Therapy is the answer for you. We asked one prospective new member who wasn't sure if she was ready for this program or if she needed a therapist. We asked her if she was willing to take actions and move forward. We asked if she had the ability to look at the future without constantly reflecting on the past. And she gave us examples of where she was already doing so, and she assured us that she really was willing to look at the future without constantly reflecting on the past. She showed us areas where she was already doing that in other important areas of her life and business. And that's when we decided, yes, we'll give her one of these coveted seats in this limited enrollment program. Because this is 1 year of your life. And 1 year of your life is it's a long time to commit to an almost daily regimen. And we want to be certain that you're really committed for a right reason. It's also a year of our life. And we want to be sure we set ourselves up for success by ensuring that we are only going to be working with people who are committed for a right reason also. By the way, how many people do you work with or rely upon in your work who they themselves are not committed to their own success? So look, you may have noticed that I said a right reason, and I said it twice. I actually accidentally said the right reason, even though I have in my notes to say a right reason, and I was very intentional about that, and I still slipped. I said a right reason, not the right reason. This is a practical mindset lesson that we're actually going to be delving into more deeply later. And that's the difference between being empowered into action by finding a reason versus all the places that the people who never end up having success, they go around searching for the reason, and they use that as an excuse to hide out and remain comfortably stuck. That's the topic we're going to be talking about and exploring later during our transformative year together in 2022. You don't need the reason to get out of your own way. You don't need the reason to let go of your excuses and your stories. You don't need the reason to build a wildly successful business that serves you financially and personally and professionally. The practical approach is to just find a reason. And the thing is that the reason that is good enough today doesn't have to be the reason that's good enough tomorrow. You will outgrow your reasons. Unfortunately, too many would-be successful entrepreneurs, they believe in this fairy tale that they're fed about finding the reason. And since there really isn't, for most people, the all caps, underline, bold, italics reason to get out of your own way and take the action you know you need to take to build a successful law firm, to build a successful business, they just stay stuck, constantly searching for the reason, searching for the reason, searching for the reason. Oh, I can't get started because I haven't found the reason. You know what? Let's just find a reason to take a step today, and tomorrow we'll find another reason to take another step. And step by step by step, new reason by new reason by new reason, that's how multi-million-dollar businesses get built in the real world. Anyway, that's the topic we'll be talking about later. And the point of this whole thing is this isn't therapy. Instead, it's designed to be a systematic dismantling and inventorying of how you think about a wide range of areas of your life, mostly as they affect your business or career. We'll get into some personal stuff, but this is mostly about your business or your career. But we're not going to be dismantling your belief system just for the sake of taking it apart. This isn't just like an exercise in dismantling your belief system just because we can. And we're not going to be telling you how you should put it back together. Instead, we're going to guide you through the process of dismantling your belief system and the rules that you currently live your life by for the deliberate and intentional purpose of giving you the opportunity to take inventory of which parts you want to keep when you put it all back together and which parts maybe you will decide for yourself that you want to leave out because they're not serving you anymore. And maybe they used to serve you, and we can be grateful that you had them when you needed those beliefs and those coping mechanisms. It's like that tricycle or the bicycle you had with training wheels when you were a kid. You know, you probably have some fond memories of that thing. And without that tricycle, you wouldn't have learned how to operate the pedals. And without the training wheels, you wouldn't have developed the basics of how to balance a bicycle and how to ride a bicycle. But you don't need that anymore. And just imagine an adult riding around on a bicycle with training wheels. Well, some of those rules and those stories and those beliefs that you're currently using to make some pretty important decisions in your life, they're a lot like those training wheels. And it may be time that you left them behind. A few of them, Erica and I suspect you are going to decide you never really did need them at all. And they're certainly not doing you any good today. And you will be relieved when you finally decide to leave them behind. So look, therapy focuses on the past. And everything we are going to be doing together this year is focused on the present, so that you can make a better decision that will give you more options for your future. Therapy focuses on the past and how your past impacts what is happening in your life today. It seeks to resolve issues from your past in order for you to move into the present and the future. And by the way, I think everyone should get therapy. I can't think of anyone who I've ever met who wouldn't benefit from some therapy. This is not a knock against therapy. It's a distinction between what therapy is versus what a practical, profitable mindset is. One is therapeutic, the other is practical, profitable, and drives your business forward. So look, during this program, we're going to be focusing on the present and your future. And we're only going to be examining the past to the extent that doing so helps you clarify strengths and patterns which may have been practical in a different time and place of your life, but which are impractical in your life and business or career today, or which are incompatible with the future you want to create for yourself. This program is not about us teaching you or you learning a new skill set. You probably have read plenty of self-help books and gone to lots of self-help seminars, and you probably listened to more than a few self-help audio programs and podcasts, which are all good. And I'm not knocking that. But that's not what this program is all about. Plus, you've probably solved a lot of problems in your life by learning and even mastering new professional skills. Because you're a educated, learned person. You read books, you take courses, you take seminars, you educate yourself. And if you need to learn a new skill, then you got to learn a new skill, and that's how you're successful in a lot of areas of life. But that's not necessarily how you're successful being an entrepreneur. Learning a skill is an intellectual exercise. And it's a necessary and worthwhile exercise and thing to do. But learning has its limits. And approaching certain topics as if they were something to learn paradoxically causes certain limits to come into being. This is because learning is about understanding on an intellectual level. What we are seeking to do this year is to help you transform your whole way of being. And in a relatively short period of time, too, because 1 year out of your life, it goes by in a blink of an eye. So just imagine the difference between when you learned to ride a bicycle versus when you simply became a person who could ride a bike. One is intellectual and the other is experiential. There are probably a lot of people out there who can explain to you in detail the correct way to ride a bicycle and why and how a bicycle works. But they can't necessarily ride a bicycle very well. Some of them can't even ride a bicycle at all. Don't you know, life is full of learned people who can't do what they've learned all about. They can explain it to you chapter and verse, and maybe even make you feel a little insecure about yourself because you don't understand it as well as they do. But they aren't doing it. And they're not getting the results, not because they don't understand it, because they obviously understand it. They're teaching you the technical skills, but they're not doing it. And some of them even go around teaching it to other people, and then they all sit around and wonder why none of them are getting the kind of results that those of us who get and keep our focus on what we are doing, the results that we get. Now, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say that you should not waste your time on learning. I am what most people would consider to be a very learned person, and learning is a very important skill set. It helps you shortcut the doing part. And if you take care to learn the right things, from the right people, you can certainly save yourself a lot of time and avoid a lot of easily avoidable, what we call rookie mistakes. But ironically, one of the most important things that some of the most learned and least successful people have not learned, or rather, it seems like they've chosen to ignore it, is when to stop learning and start doing. Because, all over this world, there are millions and millions of tragically uneducated people. I mean, there's people all over this world who do not have access to good education. It's tragic. They can't even begin to explain the physics or the mechanics of what makes a bicycle work. And yet, they can balance themselves on two wheels and ride a bike for miles and miles and miles, and they can carry heavy loads on these bicycles, and they use these bicycles every day, but they can't even explain to you how they work. And a bicycle, by the way, in case you didn't know it, happens to be one of the most efficient ways to convert human energy into locomotion. It actually takes less energy to ride a bicycle 1 mile over smooth terrain than it takes to walk over that same smooth terrain, and certainly run. In fact, a bicycle can be up to 5 times more efficient than walking. Bicycle is even more efficient than driving a car or even riding a horse over smooth terrain. But you see, knowing how to generate profits, knowing these facts, knowing this information, filling your head with all kinds of facts and figures and data and information and instructions and how-to and explanations, it's not nearly as practical as just taking the actions that generate the profits you're after, regardless of whether those are financial or personal or professional profits. We're after all of it. When we talk about this being a practical, profitable mindset program, we're talking about financial profits and personal profits and professional profits, not one in favor of or at the prejudice of any of the others. It has to be holistic. It has to be balanced, or it's not going to work as a practical matter. You think you need to know how everything works and why everything works and what you'll do in the event that anything goes wrong. You think to yourself that if you could just keep it all in your head, you'll be able to coordinate all of this information and keep it straight, and then you'll be able to ride that bike. But then you experience that moment that every bike rider experiences, where all the information falls away and you're just riding a bike. So yes, along the way, we're going to be teaching you a few skills, of course. We will explain how the pedals work and how to use the brakes to slow down and bring your bike safely to a stop, and what that kickstand is for if your bike has a kickstand. But you are not here to learn a bunch of intellectual stuff. That's why we put the name Practical into the title of this program. And we were very intentional and feel very strongly about that part of the title. This has to be practical, or what's the point? There are too many books and programs that approach many of the same topics that we have planned for you this year, but they approach these same topics in too much of a theoretical way. They'll have you reciting what all the different parts of a bicycle are for, but they'll never actually get you onto a bike, which is the only way to actually learn to ride. You learn to ride by riding, not by reading about riding, not by talking about riding, not by watching videos about riding, not by passing tests about riding. You learn to ride a bike by getting your ass on a bike, putting your feet on the pedals, and you ride. Which obviously we're using a bicycle as an analogy here for producing the kinds of profits that you want to have in your life. And before anyone starts sending me a bunch of emails about it, I'm not an avid bicycle rider. I don't own bicycle helmets. I don't own bicycle outfits. I don't have like a street bike or race. I have a big lazy cruiser with big lazy tires and big monkey handlebars. I don't want everyone thinking, oh, you must be a bicycle rider. Start sending me bicycle stuff. I'm not a biker. I'm just using this as an analogy. I was just looking for an analogy that I figured everyone could relate to. Because if you can ride a bike, then you know that moment. You've experienced that moment when you went from not being able to ride a bike to, like, in an instant, there's that moment where suddenly it all just kind of comes together and you're riding a bike. And from that moment on, there's a transformation. And once it happens, it forever changes you. And you go from being a person who can't ride a bike to being a person who can ride a bike. The same is true of swimming. The same is true of truly being the owner of a multi-million-dollar business, where you just get in the flow and it just starts working for you, and you don't have to keep pushing it and working so hard to try to keep it going. So look, our aim is to get you riding so that at the end of the year, when we all get together to reflect on our growth and to celebrate, you may not even be able to explain why or how it all works, but you will have become a bike rider. You will have become a swimmer. You will have become the owner of a multi-million-dollar business that works for you, instead of a person who works to make your business work. That is to say, you'll be a person who is applying mindset in practical ways that profit your life, even if you can't necessarily explain why or how it all comes together. It's just going to work for you. Don't force us to explain how. Just play all in. Do the exercises we're going to ask you to do. None of them are going to hurt you. None of them are going to put you at any kind of a risk, other than maybe emotional, and put your stories and your excuses at risk. But none of them are going to put you at financial risk. None of them are going to put you at legal risk. None of them are going to put you at professional risk. Just play all in. Give yourself the opportunity to experience these things so that you can have a transformation. This program is not about us giving you or you following a bunch of instructions either. We are not here to feed you some kind of a formula. You are not a robot. You do not need to be programmed. Along the way, we will ask you to try some things. We will ask you to just try following these steps just for practice and to help you develop some better habits, of course. But the things we're going to ask you to do, or the steps we're going to ask you to follow, are like temporary scaffolding. It's like training wheels. It's only there to support you as you develop new muscle memory around what may be for some of you, what will probably be for all of you at some point along the way, some very unfamiliar behaviors and patterns of thinking and responding to your environment. The point is, none of this is meant to be dogma. There are no essential rituals. The only essential ritual is show up, show up, show up, police your excuses, and play all in. Any patterns we're going to ask you to follow at any point this year, some for a few days, others for a few weeks, some for a few months, they're only meant to get you in motion and keep you on track until you don't need this kind of structure anymore, which you'll know when that is, because you'll be able to produce similar results on your own without the support of the patterns that we're going to be sharing with you to follow. So think of it this way. Most of the time, we live in an interior world of dreams and desires and rules and stories that are handed down to us by people we've never even met, and certainly we've never had the opportunity to question or examine why they think what they think, or taught our great-grandparents what they taught our great-grandparents, who taught our grandparents, who taught our parents, who taught us what we now assume to be facts and truth and the way it has to be. We tolerate, we rationalize, and we tolerate, we rationalize, and we even defend and even fight to defend these so-called facts and habits and the effects of our belief in those facts and adherence to those habits is that we end up having bad relationships with friends, family, and people who we ought to be doing business with. And we have the luxury of hiding out in this inner world because, let's face it, compared to the vast majority of human history, we don't really have to do very much to survive, do we? And somewhere along the way, surviving became the standard that most people now aspire to. Survival requires practical choices, but not necessarily profitable ones. Recall that profit is the natural byproduct of any exchange whereby a person voluntarily exchanges something they value less in order to gain something they value more. So in the strict sense of the word, survival is, of course, obviously, if you want to get into semantics, survival is obviously more profitable than not even being able to survive. But look, in the modern world we live in, not even being able to survive, it's not even a real concern for most people. And so the choice most of us are faced with really is between merely surviving or actually stepping away from the crowd, doing things that are contrary to conventional wisdom, and actually thriving, because most people don't. They're just surviving. And that's sad for them. And it's even more sad for you if you open your eyes to this possibility and then you still decide to join them. This program has been designed to enable you to make smart decisions about actions you will take, actions you will refrain from taking, and how you will conduct yourself in ways that will profit your life. And I emphasize the word enable you to make smart decisions. We're not here to make the decisions for you. We're guiding you through exercises that will help you come to realizations on your own. We're here to guide you through exercises to give yourself practical experiences so that you can become the person you want to become, so that the results happen effortlessly. So I started off by saying, give me 1 second. Someone in my house is printing things to my printer. It's making a racket. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Sorry about that. So look, we start off by talking about becoming very intentional about why you are here. Why are you doing this? Number 2, what has to be true at the end of the year in order for you to say this was a great experience for you? And 3, how will you know the truth about the experience? How will you know that what you feel is true? How will you know that what you think is true? Because truth is critical to all practical, profitable endeavors. All right, so your assignment, and I would encourage everyone to do it right now, not later, not tomorrow, while it's fresh in your mind. Answer these 3 questions on the Facebook group. 1, why are you doing this? What is a reason? Doesn't have to be the reason, just has to be a reason. Why are you doing this? 2, what has to be true at the end of this year in order for you to say that this has been a phenomenally great, amazing, wonderful experience, and you're really proud of yourself and grateful to the person you were, that he or she or they or them or it or whatever you call yourself gave yourself this opportunity? And 3, how will you know the truth about this experience? How will you know the truth? How will you know that your feelings are true? How will you know that what you think is based on truth? All right? We will be back on Monday, January 3rd at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our first actual, real, formal lesson and exercise in this year of transformation together. I will be monitoring the Facebook group later today and tomorrow, and I'm going to be looking for your answers to why you are doing this, what has to be true at the end of the year in order for you to say that it was a great experience, and how you will know the truth about this experience. If you make an excuse that prevents you from answering these 3 simple questions, well then, we have a lot of work to do. All right? I'll see you on the Facebook group. And Erica, is there anything else you want to add here?
No, we're good to go for today, RJon. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great January 1st, and congratulations for... Look, I really want you to think about the person you're going to be 12 months from now. The life you're going to be living 24 months from now. The reality that you're going to consider to be normal 36 months from now. Imagine it's January 1st, 36 months from now. And you wake up and you reflect on the previous year, which will be 22, 23, 24. You're reflecting on 2024. What did you celebrate in 2024? What are you excited that you achieved in 2024? What are you grateful for on January 1st, 2025 because of what you did for yourself in 2024? And I want you to think about what that person will say to who you are today about why that future you wants you to do this program. What will that future you tell you has to be true at the end of this year in order for you to say that this was a great experience? And how will your future you tell you that you'll be able to know the truth about what's real this year? All right? I'm done. Have a great January 1st. I am going out on the boat.